Hello everybody, welcome to another Tasty Tuesday. I hope everyone is staying safe, staying woke, all of that. Today we are doing a high protein grill video. We will be making veggie burgers that are high in protein, so we've got some pretty good things to include in there. We've got quinoa, we've got some red lentils, and some sweet potato. So it's gonna be a nice rounded out recipe in terms of nutrients. We've got some nice satiating carbs, slow burning carbs, these sweet potatoes. You've got a complete protein here with the quinoa, some added protein with the lentils, and then some other veggies that we're gonna add in there. Then we're also making some veggie skewers. I won't show them now. I was going to show them actually, but I don't think I'll show them. I'll show them at the end. They're going to be tofu veggie skewers, which tofu is a great way to increase your protein intake, especially now since I believe I heard on the news earlier today. I just sort of didn't glimpse at it because you can't glimpse with your ears, but I briefly heard something which may or may not be wrong, but I think meat prices are still on the rise considering the shortage. So this is a nice recipe if you are grilling. As the weather's getting warmer, it's definitely nice to grill so that you're not in a hot kitchen. So let's get started. So I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit time consuming to do all of these separate components, but if you have everything already made beforehand, it just becomes a matter of assembling it. For instance, I like to have a batch of some kind of legume, whether that's red kidney beans. I think that's a nice bean for making veggie burgers and that kind of thing. I think gives it like more of a meatier texture. Chickpeas work. In this case, we have some lentils. I'm sort of following this recipe that I found on the New York Times website, their cooking section. And again, like everything I do, it's loosely based on that recipe. It's just a riff, but I definitely think it's a good one. So let's get started. So for this recipe, it's about 1/3 cup of lentils. I'm just going to use about half because I don't think the bowl that I have here is big enough for everything. It's about 1/3 cups of lentils, red lentils, and you just follow the instructions on the package. 1/3 cup of quinoa. I think the recipe calls for blonde quinoa, but I'm using, I guess, red quinoa. I'll just smash that a little bit. And then here I have about 1.5 pounds of sweet potatoes. Again, I'm just going to use about half. And this is really going to give it a nice sort of unifying, it's kind of like the glue of the burger, more or less. So we're just gonna mash that together. And it comes together pretty quickly after you chop up everything you need to chop up and boil everything you need to boil up. Again, this is very easy or pretty quick if you have everything already made. I also like to have quinoa on hand, so I'll usually boil about 2 cups and have that during the week. And I just have it in the fridge and I use it for just about anything. I throw it in pasta salads, veggie burgers in this case, accompanying it with rice. So it's a nice versatile thing to have already made. And then the sweet potatoes, you can roast them on a low temperature to get them nice and sweet. I think the sugars break down even less, so they're really, really sweet when you roast them. Or you can boil them. That's what I did in this case, just because I didn't have too much time to roast them. I have got some chopped spinach here, so I'm doing about just doing it by feel. Definitely want to make sure when you're adding in other things, other veggies, that it's still kind of it kind of forms like a dough is essentially what you want to make. That's what I think of when I'm making burgers. Like, is this like a nice together dough? So we've got our spinach there, and then I've chopped up some red onions. The recipe that I looked at, I believe, uses chives. you can do that. I'm a big fan of red onion, so I'm using red onion. And then the recipe also calls for feta and mint, which I think would be phenomenal in a burger. I just happen to not have those things, so I am not using those things. But another thing that I like to have, or another thing that I like to keep in my freezer are frozen veggies. Some here. I guess the only issue with the kind of frozen veggies that I have, these kind specifically, is that we've got like these long carrot pieces and it makes it kind of hard to form the burger. So I guess if you can find like the actual cube kind, that would be best. And again, I definitely recommend to have frozen veggies at all times in your fridge or freezer in this case. These are frozen ones. All right, so that's together. So at this point, I'm going to season this. I've got some spicy paprika. This I actually got in Israel last summer at a market in Jerusalem, and it's really nice. I think it adds a nice smokiness to it. When we're grilling it, it adds a nice color to it. So we've got some smoked paprika, just a dash of salt, not too much. I've got some sumac powder. Definitely season as you wish. There's no right or wrong with this. You can add black pepper, you can add lemon pepper, adobo if you have that. So we're using some sumac here. I like sumac because, and I found this at Wegmans. I like sumac because it adds like a nice sort of lemony taste to things. And I'm definitely, I think I've said that like in every video that I've done. I guess this would be a good time to talk about grilling with care. Let me just go off screen for a minute because we have a really great fact sheet on our NJAES website called Grilling with Care. It's by Sherry Siriano. And it kind of lists things that you want to consider before grilling, during grilling, and after grilling. I think it's a great fact sheet. And also at the bottom of that fact sheet, there's a great recipe for a vegetable kebab, which is very similar to the veggie kebab that I'm doing today with you guys. Okay, so that's all together now. This is essentially what it'll look like. It's kind of, I don't know if you can see the consistency, but it's definitely a mush, right? It's not too runny. So from here, my hands are already washed, so I'll just, and I've already cut up some parchment paper actually. So if you're gonna throw these right on the grill, I wouldn't recommend throwing these right on the grill. If anything, I'd put these on a pan to put on the grill, like a cast iron pan, just because it won't, like when it comes to flipping them, they won't stay together, so they're gonna fall apart. So what I would suggest is freezing them and then using them for the next day. I cut up some parchment paper and I tend to use the same parchment paper over and over again. For these veggie burgers, I just kind of give them a little wipe down just to be a little bit more economical. So I measured this out, and about the size that I do for my veggie burgers is about 1/3 cup. So that's about the size that you want, but that's, I guess, the size of my hand and the size of a nice sized patty, in my opinion. If you want it a little bit bigger, go ahead. You can make it a little bit bigger. Now I just kind of throw it back and forth in my, oh, I forgot an important thing. This is how you know it's a home video. Breadcrumbs. I'm like, it's a little bit runny. So a little bit of breadcrumbs. This again, do a little bit by feel. I think I have about a cup of breadcrumbs here. I don't think I'm gonna use all of it, just because I was feeling the texture of this, and it held together pretty well. But again, I think the breadcrumbs will dry it out a little bit and help it stay together. Yeah, it's definitely feeling a little bit less gooier and a little bit more solid. A little bit more solid. Throw in a little bit more. Can talk a little bit more about the Grilling with Care fact sheet. Some other tips on the Grilling with Care fact sheet. Some tips: grill more vegetables and fruits. So if you're making these two recipes, you're right on point. You are all set with that one tip. Choose poultry and fish over beef, pork, and lamb. I think now more than ever, there's really no choice, especially since those meats tend to be a little bit more expensive now, considering everything that's going on. But it's always a good choice to choose those kind of meats because they are a little bit leaner. And red meats have been associated with increased risk of certain cancers. What else? Marinate protein foods before grilling and turn them frequently to reduce the production of cancer-causing substances. I believe that cancer-causing substance that this fact sheet is referring to is heterocyclic amines, which happens with the char in grilled meats. So that's definitely something to be mindful of. And I know that's like the best part of the char. The char is probably the best part. Let's see. Love the greens in it. Yeah, some greens in here. Definitely love to incorporate greens whenever I can. Okay, so that's about ready. Back to what we're doing, making our patties. So about a 1/3 cup, which is more or less the size of my palm. And I just kind of toss it back and forth in my hand, pat it down, try to give it a little bit of a round shape, circular shape. And again, you don't want to just pat on one side because if you just pat it down on one palm, it'll stick to that one palm. So going back and forth will help prevent that. So here is our patty. This is more or less what it should look like. Just a ton of vegetables. It's nice and colorful. We've definitely got we got colors ranging from orange to greens to reds. So we've got our nice beta carotenes from the orange. We've got our folic acid from the greens, vitamin K and such. So then I just put that on a parchment paper and I literally just stack them and put them in a Ziploc bag and then they're ready the next day. And when they freeze, they should look something like voila, like that. It is definitely nice and solid. You can just throw it right on the grill, right? Whereas this, you would probably want to put it on a pan before putting it on the grill. So freeze that and it's ready and delicious. And when you grill it, you should come out with something like so. Please ignore this one. This one I bit into because I'm a very impatient person and wanted to eat it before the video. So that's more or less what it should look like. Moving on to our next food, high protein grillable food would be kebabs. What is a barbecue without a kebab, right? Or skewers. So obviously you want your skewers. I made a quick marinade of lemon juice with olive oil, some paprika. I'm a big fan of paprika, so there's some paprika in here. Salt, and I believe that's everything. I believe that's it. It's a pretty simple marinade. Again, you can do it as you like, whatever you want to add into there. And then I've got mushrooms in here. These mushrooms I just I just put a little bit of soy sauce and a little bit of sumac there, just kind of separately, just because I wanted the mushrooms to have a separate taste. You can do that, or you can just toss them in with these other veggies. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's whatever you feel is best to your taste. Okay, and I guess before I start skewering things, I'll show you the tofu. So with the tofu, I actually froze the tofu beforehand, and then I diced it up. I froze it because it gives you a chewier texture when you're grilling it, and then I pressed it and then marinated it. So that's the process that I went through. And I'm marinating it in an already pre-made barbecue sauce, but you don't have to go out to the store and buy a barbecue sauce. You can literally whip up your own. It's pretty easy. If you have tomato paste, apple cider vinegar, some kind of sugar, I think molasses is probably best, but you could get away with using brown sugar, even white sugar. You play around with those ratios. You add in a little bit of spice to your taste, and you've got yourself more or less a homemade barbecue sauce. So don't feel like you have to run out to the store to buy a barbecue sauce. You can definitely make your own at home. So this has been marinating, and again, just like our fact sheet says, marinate in the fridge. So that was in the fridge overnight. And now I'm ready to skewer things. So you definitely want to be careful when doing this, especially if you're doing this with kids. I make a lot of fruit kebabs with kids, and I am always on alert because these things just tend to go flying everywhere. So if you're making these with kids, just be mindful that it's very easy to poke yourself. Sometimes some foods will be a little bit tougher and the skewer will just slide right through, and sometimes, or not tougher, they'll be a little bit softer than you think and they'll slide right through, and then sometimes it'll be a little bit tougher and you have to really work the skewer in. Like our mushroom, I just sliced right through it. So working on that. Let's see if there are any other tips I should mention from our fact sheet. Cook in the center of the grill and move coals to the side to keep fat from dripping on them. You definitely want to prevent grease fires. That's definitely something that happens to the best of us, you know? And those are fires that are pretty hard to put out. Grill smaller portions to decrease the exposure time to high heat. Yes, agree with that. Again, we want to avoid those cancer-producing substances. Remove and discard any charred portions on protein foods, specifically referring to those red meats. Barbecue in the oven any time of the year by spreading your favorite sauce on chicken breasts or lean chops and bake until done. So yeah, you can do this all year round. It doesn't have to be just for the summer. All right, so we'll just, there we go. What I love about these is that they're so colorful. I think that's definitely something that I love about summer, is just like all the colorful fruits and vegetables that are in season, like peaches. Grilling peaches, one of my favorite things. Honestly, underrated. I could eat grilled peaches all year round, but obviously not possible. Or it is, but peaches are just not as good out of season. I think I'm going to toss in another cube. And then that's our tofu kebab. Boom. And again, no right or wrong way. If you want to add more onion, add in more onion. If you want to add in more tofu skewers, you can do that too. Now, what's so great about these recipes is that if you eat about, say, 3 of these skewers and 1 of these veggie burgers, it's about 20 grams of protein. So that's pretty high. That's pretty equivalent with any burger, with a beef burger. So you're getting in a nice amount of protein with these things, so it'll keep you nice and full, and it's delicious. So this is what they end up looking like. They're just flying everywhere. This is what they look like after they have been grilled. Got a nice char on the onion. And yeah, pretty easy. They're ready in about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how your grill is. And the burgers also. So that is it for our high protein grillable foods. I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.